All right, morning, guys. We're gonna get going here. Okay. Um, our U.S. markets had a very good session on Friday evening, really closing right at the highs. You can see there the only sector that lagged was telecoms, which is obviously defensive. So we had risk on that really came back on Friday afternoon. We had U.S. Employment data that came in Friday. That really was quite good numbers. Nothing I think that nothing too amazing. You actually don't want too amazing. It really just came in right where you wanted it to be. Very strong. That caps off the end of a month of kind of mediocre data, but with a positive highlight. So I think it was very important to get that going forward for the markets. The managed to end the S&P's 2-week losing streak, and I think it's just brought back some of the the Fed tapering comments. So I think that's been evident by the sell-off in the gold price and some of the other precious metals and the risk sentiment that's come back in the market. We saw Japan that traded incredibly well this morning. On the back of that, we're up almost 5% right now, pretty much up across the board in Asia. We did have some relatively weak numbers on the weekend out of China, and that hurt some of the industrial commodities, oil and copper. That came off a little bit. I think just showing that China's continuing to slow down a little bit. It doesn't seem like the government's really going to come in and do anything, to put it through any stimulus in the near term. So we'll keep an eye on that going forward. But for now, markets seem relatively happy, continuing to grind higher even without China. Okay, we had very little on the corporate action front this morning. We've got a few divs out there. We've got Pick and Pay, we've got Barlow Worlds, and we've got African Bank. African Bank was actually raised this morning to overweight at JP Morgan. So I think that kind of is going to continue the push up. I think this thing could be at $20 relatively soon, especially considering what's going on with especially considering the big stake that the PIC is now taking there. So, okay, these are the Chinese numbers that we were talking about a second ago. We had the trade balance, which was roughly in line. Export numbers were a bit of a shocker, and the import numbers were also a bit of a shocker. So that really just highlights what we were talking about earlier. And the CPI number also soft, so you would think that the government could come in and maybe do something if they want to, even potentially even cut rates. But there's been very little talk of that kind of thing. So, markets aren't really expecting it at this point. Industrial production number there was also soft. Retail sales came in line. So really just some bad data out of China overnight. In Japan, a quarter-on-quarter GDP that came in as a small beat. Later, we've got French industrial production, Italian industrial production. Then we've also got Italian quarter-one GDP, quarter-over-quarter. And then you can see that Australia and China were actually closed overnight. So, all right, we're going to jump into the maps. All right, first one we're going to show here is going to be Germany. I just wanted to show, we talked about this the last couple days, this chart. We really came down, tested support on Friday, held it brilliantly. You can see there. And if I just shorten it up just so you guys can see this, we actually made, I wouldn't call it a key reversal because this trend hasn't been going for long enough. We're kind of looking at maybe a 10-day trend, whereas I would call it more of a key reversal if it finished off this uptrend, for instance. But it is a major reversal that happened. You could kind of call it a key reversal because it did make new lows and then finished above the previous day's highs. Nevertheless, a big, important reversal out of Germany. We got the same sort of move out of the Aussie, which you can see here. Same thing, only a few days of downtrend, so you can't call it a key reversal by any means. But we did take out the 10 or 20-day lows, and then made a new high on the same or higher than the previous day. So quite major reversals happening in some of the indexes, worth paying attention to going forward. I would say because of that kind of setup, in my mind, I think it can last. MTN. This is not what here we go. MTN also, exact same sort of story. just shorten it up as much as I can here so you guys can really see. But same thing, kind of taking out a 20 or 30 day low on MTN, and then reverses and makes a new high and higher than the previous day's high. So really important across the board for a couple of these patterns. Very, very important for us to take cognizance of. All right, Harmony. Harmony I wanted to show here. I'll also shorten this up a little bit. That's a year chart. We're just going to shorten it down. I know these golds have been really bad, or just I would even just may as well just call them totally useless. But Harmony, you can see here, is really setting the line in the sand here, right at 42.30 on a closing basis. You can see here how we've tested it. We've gotten through it on the wicks almost every day for the past 6 sessions. Haven't managed to cross above it. I know the gold price died hard on Friday, but you do have the rand that's totally bailed this morning. It's down 1.7%. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Harmony trade up close to these levels on a weak rand. And I actually think that the gold miners that have more local exposure than overseas exposure may be the ones that start to do well because of the fact that the rand's blowing so hard. But they were setting up a little inverse head and shoulder pattern here in Harmony, and really at 42.30 is the neckline. You can see here it's quite a nice looking little pattern. Can take us significantly higher if we break above 42.30 on a closing basis. So watch this one really closely, guys. I mean, the setup I think is really there. If it does break above 42.30 on a closing basis, we got to own it. All right, Old Mutual. Mutual, I just wanted to point out, we talked about this one. I think we mentioned this on Friday. We came down really on Friday, touched it in the morning, touched support here at 29.20, 29.30, somewhere in that area, call it 29.30, and then made a nice little bounce up above it. I would think that, if we can put in another day of green bars, we can kind of get above what will end up looking very much like a flag pattern, and it'll be a nice little place to own Mutual. You got to realize if you look at it in pound terms, you can see how hard it's been sold off. I mean, the thing has come off 15% from the highs in pound terms. So, having us rally without a huge pullback here, you can easily see that one happening. You can see the same thing in breweries. If you look at it on the LSE, we came off 5-6 pounds off the top, which is really significant. I mean, that's 15+% as well. Whereas here locally, it really has made a very small pullback. So I think that actually makes these things very much worthwhile picking up. Breweries and Old Mutual, if you can get them around, breweries around 4.95, Mutual around 29.30. So keep those two in mind today. The last local one I'm going to show is clicks. Just want to show here, I mean, if you kind of take it going all the way back to November of last year, you can see we've really taken out lows, closing lows. Sorry, I just dropped that down a touch. On a closing basis, we've taken out the lows, and I think that's important. Today, if we can't get it back above this 56.50, 56.50 and hold it, I think that this one can be sold and can probably see some lower prices. You got to remember these guys are probably importing, the vast majority of all their stuff, so the margins are going to get absolutely crushed considering that the rand's down about 13% on the year. Just to have a quick look again on the rand so you guys can, remember the steepness of this move. I mean, this thing literally since, let's see here, May the 14th has bailed from 9.15 all the way to 10.15. So we have a 10% move, and kind of maybe 15, 16 trading sessions. I think that says enough, and so those shares like clicks are really just going to get crushed. If I can just show you, the last one I'll show here is Google, which has really kind of been the darling of the tech sector as of late in the States. Beautiful flag pattern happening here. Really like this stock, from all sides. I think it's kind of going to be it may be the Apple of this year and beginning of next year that we had seen for a while before. Broke out of this flag pattern here. Really can see $1,000 here in the very near term, I think, in Google, and I think we'll reach it before the end of the year. That's it for today, guys. Thanks a lot.